Yo, what's up viewers? It's your boy Blaze Hollow coming at you again with another What If, and this time I'll be bringing you What If Deku Had All for One Part 3. I know it's been a while since you've heard from me, but I've been working behind the scenes on a bunch of news stories and trailers that you're all going to enjoy. So hopefully, if I get my timing right and my editor chooses not to be a pain in the neck, I'll get a couple of these videos out before the new year starts. But with all that said, let's run that intro and get into it.
Maybe in a million miles on a highway through the skies. Someday soon we'll be together.
No, I honestly don't think you can become a hero.
As everybody was leaving the conference hall, some were disappointed by the event, some were indifferent, but the one thing that stood out the most was the last two people standing in the boardroom, Endeavor and Hawks, as Endeavor turned to look towards the winged hero. "I'm truly surprised you're going against your handlers. Aren't you worried that this might bite you in the ass?" "Maybe I feel like being a little rebellious birdie today. I might even stop and get something to eat before I go back to the office, just to be a little extra naughty." Endeavor placed a hand on Hawks' shoulder. "Thanks, Hawks, for everything." "Why are you thanking me? All I did was give you extra work to do at home. You might come to curse me later." "I don't think I will, but you saved a child's life today. You should be proud of that." Endeavor finally made his way out of the building as his son, along with Miss Bakugo, were waiting for him. "Sorry for the wait. I didn't think the both of you would be waiting for me." Toya was the first to speak up as he had his arms crossed in front of his chest. "Well, I wanted to be able to introduce myself to my new little brother, but I forgot to ask you which hospital he was staying at." Minsky hung her head down low. "I was wondering if I could come visit him at the hospital before he's transferred into your custody." "Of course you can come. I was hoping that you would be waiting, or at least I would catch you on the way to your car." Endeavor reaches into his pocket and pulls out his car keys and just tosses them at Toya. "Go grab my car. It's at least 2 blocks down from here. I know that you came here on one of your ice trails, but let's keep the hazards to a minimum within the city today." Toya looked at the keys and just started walking away, not really wanting to argue with his dad, but after he made some distance, Minsky looked over at Endeavor and just came out and asked him, "Be honest with me, how difficult is the path ahead for him going to be?" "It's difficult to say. He has to come to terms with what happened to him, along with opening himself up to my family along with you about how he feels. From there, then we could talk to him about his abilities and what he might want to do with his life." Minsky was confused, seeming like Endeavor did not intend to force the idea of heroism onto Izuku. "Wait, you don't sound like you're going to force him into hero training, but what you said inside goes against what you're telling me now." "I never told anyone that I was going to force him to become a hero. I just told him that he wasn't going to become a villain. I do not plan to force any child to do anything that they themselves do not want to do. That's one thing from my experience of being a parent of 4 has taught me, to let them decide what they want to do in the future and only help guide them on the proper way, so we have to just wait and see." "Thank you. You have no idea how much that means to me. I feared for the worst inside of that meeting, but now I know he's in safe hands." Toya finally drove up with the car as they both nodded at Minsky, who quickly got into her vehicle, which was parked a lot closer and followed behind the both of them. After they arrived at the hospital, the doctor quickly brought Endeavor to the medical room where both of the boys were being stashed. Once they walked inside, they saw that Shinso was staring at Izuku in awe as he was touching one of the rails to the medical bed, but instead of it being some kind of cheap metal, it looked like it was turning into gold. That's so cool, you pretty much have a money glitch in real life. Izuku was staring at his hand in complete shock, not really understanding how he was doing that, but since he was focusing so closely on his hand, a part of his pointer finger opened up and something shot out of it, being embedded into the ceiling. Oh my god, what was that? Shinso was looking up at the ceiling, trying to see if he can get a good look at what was shot out. I think it's a piece of bone. You shot out your own bones. I don't know. All of this is really new to me. I wasn't able to do any of this before. Minsky, Toya, and Endeavor all stood there with smiles on their face, happy to see that the boys weren't deep in depression, but instead was trying to make the best of their situation. Endeavor took the initiative and walked deeper into the room and coughed, getting both of the boys' attention on him instead of the ceiling. Hello, children. I'm sure the both of you have a lot of questions, and I'd be willing to answer them to the best of my ability, but I'm sad to tell you from today onwards, things might not be the same for the both of you. Toya realized that his father was not really helping lighten the mood, as both of the kids had a frightened look on their face, so he jumped up into the room, leaping over his father's shoulders as he shot out a small wave of ice into the air, making snowflakes. My pops is trying to say that one of you is going to be living with us and become an official member of the family. Both of the boys were smiling with sparkles in their eyes as they were watching the number 9 hero, the Winter King, do a little performance for the both of them. As they were clapping their hands, they both realized what he actually said. Wait, but what about our families? I know we heard the doctor say something about them not making it, but that can't be true, right? Enso was clinging onto his shirt with tears going down his face, knowing that he didn't have anybody else to go to. Yeah, my mom and dad were the only people I had. They can't be gone. You're heroes, right? Didn't you save them? Toya had a sour look on his face, hating this part of hero work, where they couldn't save people and they have to deal with those who survived. Well, about that, Minsky pushed both of the men out of the way as she ran to Izuku, hugging him so tight it almost made it hard for the boy to breathe. But she didn't want to let him go, thinking that if she did, he might disappear. I'm so glad to see you alive. Izuku tried to push away just so he could breathe. I'm happy to see you too, Auntie, but you're crushing me, along with trying to suffocate me. Minsky blinked her eyes a few times and realized what she was doing and let him go, but instead hold on to his hand at least. Listen, I'm sorry to tell you this, but your mom and dad are gone, and you're not going to be able to stay with me because some bad people were trying to take you from everybody. But Endeavor stood up to all of them for you and is going to take good care of you. Do you understand? Izuku was about to start crying. He wasn't going to be able to see his family or anybody he actually knew, but before he could say anything, he looked over at his new friend Shinso and realized no one was coming for him. What about my friend? I don't know. I don't have all the answers to that. Sorry. But he just told us. Right now, he doesn't have anywhere else to go. I don't want my buddy Shinso to disappear. All the adults looked at each other for a minute, but before anything else could be said, a bunch of footsteps that sounded like a group of people running this way could be heard from the hallway. Toya decided to check it out, but the moment he opened the door, he was bulldozed right out of the way by a white-haired woman that was holding the hand of a 10-year-old boy that had red and white hair. Right behind the both of them was an older male that had white hair, and right behind him was an older girl that seemed to have white hair with red streaks in it. Is it true what I've heard that we'll be taking in some kid that you saved? And the committee tried to... Endeavor quickly moved his hand hand over his wife's mouth before she could say the last part of her statement. Ray, please calm down and think about what you're saying in front of children. I know you're excitable about all this, but most importantly, who told you about this? Ray looked at her husband's hand that was still in front of her mouth and then looked around the room and then thought about her statement a second ago and how bad it would be to say that in front of young children. She then proceeded to remove the hand from in front of her mouth. Well, Toya texted me the situation, and the moment he got back to me about the hospital location, I rushed over here with everybody. This whole situation is disastrous. I'm sorry I didn't talk to you beforehand about the situation, but if I didn't do something, only God would have known what could have happened. I'm not upset about you taking in some orphan child. I'm more upset that I wasn't here to make the first introduction with you and Toya right away. Also, who is that blonde-haired woman? Minsky walks over and gave a polite bow to Ray. Hello there, I'm Minsky Bakugo. I was supposed to be Izuku's godmother, but certain situation has come up which allows you and your husband to take him into your custody instead. But I've been reassured that I'll be allowed to come visit him. Ray also gave a polite bow. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Ray Todoroki, the proud wife of this big inferno over here, along with the mother of these four. Pointing at the 3 kids that came along with her eldest that was on the floor with a bunch of shoe marks on his back like he was just trampled over. I want you to know that you and your family are always welcome in our household to come visit, but I should really make my introduction to the little one, so which one are we taking? Well, technically the one with the white hair, but it's come to light that the boy with the magenta hair may not have a home after today's incident. I was about to get a hold of a doctor to confirm that. Ray didn't skip a beat as she walked over in between both medical beds and held onto the hands of both of the young boys. Well, if that's the case, then we'll just take them both. Everybody in the room seemed to be in shock for how quickly that escalated. Minsky didn't expect the woman to want to be taking in kids like it was no one's business. Endeavor stepped out of the room trying to flag down a doctor while Toya finally got off of the floor, getting a hand by one of his little brothers. Are you sure you want to say stuff like that, Mom? We don't even know the kid's actual family list until the doctor gets here. Don't go giving hope to something that might not even need to be promised. Well, we never know. I feel like both of these boys have gone through a lot, and it's not fair for us to save one of them when we have the opportunity to save both of them. Isn't that what heroes do, son? Oya tried to come up with something, but as usual, his mother had him pegged. I guess you're right. That's when the young girl walked up to Izuku with a friendly smile while also holding onto a basket of apples. Hi there, I'm your new big sister Fuyumi. Would you like an apple? I'm sure you would like something to eat other than hospital food. Yeah, I would love an apple. And I'm Izuku Midoriya. It's a pleasure to meet you. While the both of them were getting to know each other, another older male walked over to Shinso and sat down on the bed and wrapped an arm around him. Well, if you're going to be my new little brother, then you gotta know which one is the coolest brother to have, and that would be me, Natsuo Todoroki. So if you ever have a problem, you can come straight to me. Toya jumped up onto his feet like his ego was being trampled on. Not only was he being shown up by his 2 younger siblings, he was supposed to be the oldest. He should be the one making the biggest impression. Don't listen to the both of them. You should come to your eldest brother. I will always come to your rescue. He felt like he said the coolest thing in the room, but when he looked around, he noticed only his youngest actual brother was staring at him, which made him feel like he was being ignored. Well, I feel like I don't exist. Ray chuckled a little bit. Don't worry, you have time to make a good impression on the both of them. Let's just try not to overwhelm them with anything too loud. We don't want to trigger anything. Yeah, you're right, Mom. He places a hand on his 10-year-old little brother's head. You think I'm cool, right, Shoto? Shoto had a big smile on his face. Of course, big bro, you'll always be the coolest. After a little bit, Endeavor finally came back with a doctor who was going over 2 different medical charts. When the doctor finally looked at his chart and saw how many people were in the room, it caused him to flinch and feel a little bit embarrassed. Well, as I was telling Endeavor here, the hospital tried to get into contact with the family members of either of the boys. Of course, one was successful, being Miss Bakugo for Izuku Midoriya. As for Shinso Hatoshi, there wasn't anybody listed, no grandparents, no godparents, but I was told that your family does choose to adopt him alongside Izuku. Do I have that correctly? Everybody just nods and wait for the doctor to continue. Well then, I should let you know both of the boys seem to be going through some kind of medical phenomenon. According to Izuku's records, he's supposed to be quirkless, but as of today, he has 4 quirks. As for Shinso, he has a quirk known as brainwashing, but he seems to develop a different quirk out of nowhere that doesn't seem to be going with his medical records or family history. Would you like for me to list off the abilities the boys have before you consider adopting them? Ray was the first to speak up. We would like to make sure that all medical records are transferred over to our family either through email or through documentation before we leave here today. As for their abilities, yes, we would like to know what we're dealing with, but it will not change our minds, right, darling? Endeavor nodded as his arms were crossed as he leaned right next to the window. My wife is correct. No matter what the boys' abilities might be, we've already chosen to add them into our family. But please, doctor, enlighten us. Then let's start with Shinso. Like I said before, he has a brainwashing quirk that allows him to control people whenever they answer his questions. But he's developed this new quirk which we have named Yin Yang by doing a little bit of testing. We've noticed that he can switch between the ability to manipulate light or manipulate darkness, but he has to switch between them. He can only use one at a time for now, but its full expectation is still unknown to us. It would either require more testing or at least giving it more time to develop. Hoya snickered a little bit. So my new little bro has a half and half ability. Looks like Shoto's not the only one anymore. This is definitely going to be interesting. Ray was thinking about some of the things that she might need to change around the house. I have to agree, it looks like I might need to reinforce his room a little bit just in case his quirk goes off. The house is more built for random fires or ice covering the place. This will definitely be an interesting renovation. Shinso was looking at his hands, trying to focus for at least a little bit as a bright little shimmer was coming off of his hands like some kind of flashlight. But then he tried to concentrate really hard and switched it as his hands got covered in a thin layer of darkness. It's really hard to use, but it also feels weird. Not to playfully smack Shinso on the back. Don't worry, things are difficult to understand at first, but practice makes perfect. And like I said to you before, your big brother is going to be here to help you, so no matter what, always know that you can count on me. Doctor coughed a little bit into his fist to get everybody's attention back on him. I know that a lot of that is hard to process at first, but I would like to continue with the other boy. Hoya glares a little bit. Geez, Doc, aren't you being a little cold? We're trying to make the little ones feel better about their situation. I know it's hard, but you can at least give us a few seconds to give them a couple of compliments. Endeavor shook his head in annoyance with his eldest's brash behavior. It's not that he's trying to be rude, Toya, but I'm assuming that the hospital is overworked and a little bit understaffed, especially with today's incident. But please do continue, Doctor. We do not wish to waste any more of your time. Thank you. He took one more look over his chart to make sure that he had everything ready for him to explain to the family. Let me start by saying that Izuku is a true medical phenomenon that does not make any sense, and I do wish I could do a little bit more testing. But I'm getting off track. The quirks that he has developed, I will explain them from the least dangerous to the most dangerous. Air can cannon allows the user to release a devastating shockwave of air pressure from the palm of their hand. From what we've been able to study so far, the shockwave can manifest in different forms depending on the motion of the user's hand and the releasal of the air. Iyumi grabbed Izuku's hand and tried to see where the air will be coming in and out of. Does it allow you to grow some kind of hole in your hand to release the air pressure? Definitely an interesting one. Gotta be careful with it. You don't want the air to blow up inside of your arm. Izuku got a terrifying image of his arms being blown off because he misused this quirk. Please don't scare me with that. I just thought of it and it makes me want to scream. Anyway, I'll also explain the second least dangerous one, known as skeleton. This ability allows you to harden and remove your bones from within your body. Once you remove them though, they will be replaced with a new bone like nothing even happened. And judging on the density, especially with more mastery, they could even be used as weapons. I guess in a way you also have a healing factor, but only when using this ability. Toya tilted his head to the side as he was thinking about the many interesting and funny ways an ability like this could be used. I guess you give a whole new definition to the idea of broken bones. Shoto was actually a lot more excited as he went to Izuku's bedside and actually pulled on his arm a little bit. That quirk reminds me of a character in a manga, and if that's true, you should be able to do a bunch of cool things. Izuku felt really uncomfortable at the idea of pulling out his own bones as he was trying to fight off Shoto a little bit so he wouldn't try to pull his entire arm off anymore. Maybe you should show me that manga instead of trying to experiment with me. Again, I do not mean to be rude to children or adults. The doctor looks directly at Toya, a little bit annoyed since this was the third time he is interrupted. But please leave all commentary for the end. Endeavor sighed. Again, my apologies. My family is very excited and have a lot of new things that are happening today. Minsky got a tick mark on her forehead. You know, I understand that you might be in a little bit of a hurry, but this is a major situation, so why don't you cool your jets a little bit before I give you a reason to cool down, understand? The doctor took a step back, a little bit afraid of Minsky. Right, anyway, the third quirk is called Gold Touch, and in my opinion this is the most dangerous quirk if not handled properly. It allows the user to turn anything they touch into gold, and we had it tested. It's the genuine article, no fool's gold here. And with a little bit of difficult, we saw that the boy was able to freely manipulate it, but what scared one of my nurses is when she tried to check on his hand, she accidentally had it turn into gold. Luckily, we were able to course Izuku on a way to reverse it, but what we were able to test for the few moments her hand was like that, it was in a form of stasis, so it does not kill living things, but it does put them in a state of sleep, and depending on the user, it could either leave them there in that status to rest for the rest of their life, or eventually let them out when they feel like it. I also feel like with your son being a constant source of gold, the price of it in this economy might be affected. Minsky didn't hesitate as she put both her hands on Izuku's shoulders. Well, I know Izuku is a good boy and will not use his ability to do anything evil, right? Izuku nodded his head non-stop. Of course, I want to be a hero one day, Auntie, so of course I will always use my abilities for good. The doctor didn't give any sly comment for the interruption, mainly because he could see in the eyes of the blonde that if he made any comment, he might need a doctor himself. Last but certainly not least, the most dangerous one of them all. We don't exactly have a name for it because it's a very unique ability, and technically if we didn't see it ourselves, we wouldn't actually believe it exists. The boy has the ability to take and give quirks. I am living proof of that. I have the ability to copy one thing that I touch, and while I was doing a checkup on the boy, I was holding onto his hand when I felt some kind of shock out of nowhere for a few seconds. I thought that originally the boy had some kind of low-level electricity type of of ability. So I went to make a copy of the paper to write down and add it onto the medical file, but when I tried to do so, nothing happened. But when Izuku grabbed onto my clipboard, he automatically made another copy in his other hand, which surprised me, but of course with some time I was able to help him figure out how to give the ability back. But I would be careful with that one. It could cause a lot of panic with those who have less understanding, but with all that said, I will make copies of all the paperwork and have my nurse bring it back to you, so have a very nice day, everyone. After everything was said and done, they were finally able to withdraw the boys from the hospital, and after one final hug from Izuku to Minsky, they were finally able to get into the car, with Shinso looking back at Izuku. So, how do you feel about all of this? I don't know. I'm still processing the fact that the day I meet my father, I lose him and my mother. Yeah, I'm going to miss my mom and dad too. Do you think they're going to be nice to us, or is this just an act for the moment? Oya was about to say something, but Endeavor motioned for him not to say anything and just listen, so Toya did just so. Izuku looked up towards the front. If he wasn't in such a sour mood, he would be so happy to be in the same car as the number 2 hero and the number 10 pro hero. As he looked towards his new friend slash adopted brother, I think we'll just have to wait and see, but my mom always told me don't judge a book by its cover, so I'm going to follow that. But that's where I'm going to leave it off this time, guys. Make sure to leave a like and comment down below, and I hope all of you get to have a very happy holidays. But with all that said, I'm out this time. Peace!